So there's been a lot of discussion about what an operating agreement is. And a lot of people hear that term and assume it's just paperwork. But an operating agreement is the document that explains how an LLC functions on the inside of that business. And so how do the rules affect the members of that LLC? So if you think of the operating agreement as the rule book for the company, it answers questions like who owns what, who gets to make decisions, how profits and losses are handled, and what happens when something changes on the interior of the business. And the key thing to understand is that the operating agreement doesn't just matter when things are going well. It especially matters when they're not, and that's where people go wrong, because the assumption is when things are going great, everything will always be great and nothing will ever go wrong, so why do we need an operating agreement? But if there's a disagreement between owners, courts don't guess as to what seems fair. They look towards that operating agreement. And if the agreement is silent or doesn't have some language in there, the state defaults and fills the gap. And this is very generic and usually not helpful at all. And that's where people get surprised. The state's rules might assume equal ownership, equal control, equal profit splits, even if that's not how the business actually operates or has ever operated in that sense. And so the operating agreement also does something even more subtle. It establishes that the LLC is a real legal entity separate from those owners. And that separation part is a big part of protecting the personal assets. So even for a single member LLC, that agreement still matters. It shows intent, it shows structure, it shows that the business isn't just an extension of that owner. And so the operating agreement isn't about some formality, it's about clarity and control of the interior of the business. And so if you don't write the rules, the law writes those rules for you. And in business, that's really the outcome you want.